Howdy folks, Nathan here with the 2024 Honda Prologue. Now, for those of you who don't know, Prologue is an introductory leading up to a literary work or perhaps music. And in this case, this is the introduction of the very first all-electric Honda for the United States, specifically built for the United States and even designed right here in the United States. So Case, who's behind the camera, is going to be working with me today, and we're going to be talking about every aspect of this vehicle. That's including design, because this was actually designed in California, along with its cousin, kind of distant cousin, the Acura ZDX, which we recently covered. However, they're very different. They share components, but not a lot of them. This vehicle has a lot going for it that you may not notice on camera. In fact, if you back up a little bit, I want to show you the very first thing, which is the profile of the vehicle. Yes, the profile of the Prologue. A lot of P's going on here. That wheelbase, that is 121 inches plus. Why is that notable? Because that is friggin' long. Now, if you take a vehicle like the Chevy Tahoe, that vehicle actually has a 120-inch wheelbase. So that kind of gives you an idea of how long this is. However, the overall size of it, in terms of length and width, is about the size of a Honda Passport, a little bit smaller than the Pilot. Although the roof, that's where a big difference is, and that's because this roof is super low. Why? Because this is an all-electric vehicle, so it has a skateboard platform. Now, that is a platform that is shared with General Motors. They co-developed the skateboard platform, which has the battery packs in it and has the two motors. Now, speaking of motors, and we'll get to all the technical stuff a little bit later, but you can either get this with front-wheel drive or like this one, which is the top-of-the-line Elite with all-wheel drive. Considering that we're at the front, let's have a look-see right here. This is cool because this is actually functional. So down here you have your driving fog lights, but in here, this is a pass-through for aerodynamics. And the way they designed the wheels, according to Honda, the aerodynamic qualities of the wheels allows the air to be pushed out to make this more efficient. Now, these are 21-inch wheels, biggest wheels that Honda's ever put on a vehicle. However, that's on the top of the line Elite. If you get the base model, you get 19-inch wheels. When this car comes out, you will be able to get, along with, of course, the CCS charger, an adapter for NACS, and that will, Tesla chargers, right? Later on, a year or two down the line, then they will have an NACS charging. All right, let's look at the back. And that includes this whole Honda signature thing going on with separate letters. That's something that a lot of people are doing now, which is awesome. And then this little E thing here, that's going to be on future Honda electric vehicles. So if you see this little E thing there, ta-da, all electric. All-wheel drive, two motors, one front, one back. Once again, we'll get to the nitty-gritty in a bit. And this is the Elite. 3 different trim levels. The Elite is the top trim. One final thing I wanted to point to, as a personal thing, they included a rear wiper. I know that sounds like, oh yeah, so what, big deal. A lot of vehicles that are all electric don't have that. Hyundai products, for example. And I really wish they would. So I'm actually very happy that this little rear wiper is here.
It's also important that we talk about some of the specs that we know on this car. And not all of those specs are available, but what we do know so far is that this car will have an 85 kilowatt hour battery, so a little bit smaller than the battery that they're putting in the Acura ZDX, but it's going to have 155 kilowatt fast charging, so not the fastest charging that's out there, but it's also not a massive battery, so you don't necessarily need 350 kilowatts of charging. Honda says that you'll get as much as 20 to 80% battery in around 35 minutes and as many as 65 miles of range in 10 minutes. So not too shabby as far as those numbers go. And Honda says as much as around 300 miles of range, although this model that we're looking at with all-wheel drive and 21-inch wheels is going to be your worst case scenario in terms of overall range. And it is available either front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, although this Elite comes standard as all-wheel drive. And the all-wheel drive model here with dual motors has 288 horsepower and 333 pound-feet of torque. They have yet to reveal specs for the front-wheel drive single motor version of the car, so we don't have that horsepower and torque yet, but that will be upcoming.
Okay, here's the bad news. Under here, no frunk, no front trunk. Essentially what's in here is a bunch of wires, and remember, this is a front-wheel drive vehicle that can be all-wheel drive. So the electric motor and other wires are under here, hence no frunk. I wonder if that's copywritten. I'm just going to say front trunk. But you do get quite a bit of storage in the back. That's 57.7 cubic feet of cargo space is available when you fold the seats down. And they fold down really easily. Basically pull up and push and they drop, and they are spring assisted.
Yeah, and with those seats folded up, it's 25.2 cubic feet. As you can see, with them folded down, they don't go quite flat, but there is a little bit of extra space here.
That is correctamundo. Right you are, Case. So down here, this area, which can't be added to the cargo space, it's counted on its own. That's 5 cubic feet of additional cargo space here and here. This is probably a good spot to keep your charger, but this is definitely a nice little extra bit of cargo space, I would say. Nice to have, and you can, I believe, hook this up and have it hang here. No spare tire. And I'm pretty sure that there's nothing underneath the vehicle either. That's because there's batteries down there. Now, some of you guys might be wondering about the other components in the car, which we're going to show you in just a second. Yes, once again, like the ZDX, they share some components with General Motors products. However, all of the design elements of this vehicle, from the exterior, the interior, the doors, all the shapes and sizes, seats, all that stuff, that's all designed by Honda. All right, let's see if the chunky monkey can get inside. And indeed I can. Actually, nice. I didn't have to drop my butt down too much or lift it up too high in order to sit down in here. So if you're around 6 feet tall, that's a good start. Now where the seat is right now, headroom isn't too bad. Oh, the seat is working. That's cool. So I can move it around a bit, and I can pull it back quite a bit. And this is important because when you see later on in the back seat, you'll understand. Okay, so what do we have here? We have an 11-inch screen for the driver. This has 5 modes. In addition, the horn works. In addition, Google can actually come up here and have an overlay which helps you with navigation on this screen. So you've got all that right here. Then you have this, which is the 11.3-inch screen. This is the highest resolution screen Honda has ever put into a vehicle. This is according to them. In addition, you have Android Auto and Apple CarPlay wireless standard. That Google also standard. These screens standard. So all that comes with the vehicle. And so does this volume knob. Look how cute that is. Yay! Why is that a big deal? A while ago, Honda eliminated the volume knob and people were burning torches outside of headquarters wanting it back, including Roman. For heating, air conditioning, dual zone climate, all that stuff, you have these, which have a nice return and a nice feel to them as well. Now granted, this is a pre-production vehicle. There could be some minor changes, but for the most part, I'm pretty sure that this is standard. Phone charging. That is where your phone charger is. And I really like that because the first thing I do when I get into my car is plug it in, or if I get into someone else's car, is I find wherever the hotspot is and drop it there so I can do wireless charging. That is so much easier. Just pop it right in there. And for those of you who are Honda fans like Accord and whatnot, you'll notice there's a very similar design language here where they have a bar going across here. There's no honeycomb design, which is something that I think the Accord has and some of the other cars, but it does have this line going across, which is relatively elegant. Not a huge fan of the dark plastic here, but that's the way it goes. Now, you're probably wondering about these seats because they're sweet. That's because perforated seats, leather, and heated with ventilation. However, if you get the base model, you have cloth seats. Then if you go to the touring model, then you can get seats like this. However, you work your way all the way up to the Elite, you're able to get a bunch of different colors, that's including a tan leather as well, and that changes the entire interior because almost everything here that's wrapped will be wrapped, of course, differently. It's including, I believe, the door panels. So all these components in here can be moved around a little bit when it comes to seating and touched materials.
The top two trims of the car also get this Bose audio system, but if you opt for the very top of the line Elite, you get a heated steering wheel and you also get a heads-up display. But we can't see the heads-up display right now because the car is not powered on.
All right, let's see if the fat guy can get into the back seat without any problems. The answer is yes. One of the benefits of having an electric car of any sort that has a skateboard platform is that it tends to be a lot lower and there's no transmission hoop or hump here, which is great. Now I'm going to close the door because part of what I'm talking about here has to do with what we got here on the door, and that is there's hard plastic up here. Keep that in mind. It's not quite as premium as, well, say the CDX, but you do get nice soft touch material on the door panel right here. No real controls back here for the rear passengers to mess with other than being able to open and close the vents, but you do get 2 USB-Cs, and I believe that's 110. Now with the sunroof in here, I'll be honest with you, headroom is tight. It's not horrible. If I had Andre's luxurious hair sticking up, it would probably be just touching the top. I have a fairly long torso and stubby legs, but if you look at my legs, I have gobs of leg room. I'm 6'1" and I already have the seat set for me back up here, and in the back behind me, I mean, that is just a ton of leg room. All right, before we close, I wanted to do a couple notes. First of all, you may have noticed that surrounding us is the Rocky Mountains. We came to Los Angeles to be surrounded by the Rocky Mountains. Yep. Anyway, the car is due sometime early 2024. They don't have an exact date yet. In addition, we don't have exact pricing, but Honda did say around the $40,000 zone, which seems to be leaning towards the higher $40,000 zone for the front-wheel drive model. Obviously, the all-wheel drive one, Elite and all that, will be a lot more expensive. So expect this car very soon, and yes, we'll be testing the heck out of it. I'll see you next time.